Are you ready to become the balanced leader you are destined to become? Then stay right here. Welcome to today's Balanced Leader, where we empower today's leader to be the best that you can be, both in your professional and personal life. I'm your host, Caroline Baird, and I've explored and believe the intersection of wellness and leadership are key to finding the balance you are craving as a leader. This is the show where we focus on leadership and the importance of maintaining balance in today's fast-paced and constantly changing world. We talk about topics related to leadership, from communication and team building to personal development and finding balance during challenging times. We will also hear from inspiring guests who have achieved success in their fields and have valuable insights to share about their leadership journeys and on what it takes to be a successful leader. But this podcast isn't just about leadership, it's also about wellness too. Taking care of your mind, body, and spirit is essential to becoming a successful leader, and you'll get tips and strategies for living a healthy, balanced life, from managing burnout and improving mental health, to finding ways to reset and reground during a typical day at work so that you can achieve your goals. So whether you're a CEO, an entrepreneur, or just someone looking to improve your leadership skills, this podcast is for you. Are you ready? Well, let's get going. Get ready for today's powerful episode where we're going to be diving deep with Tamara Skyhawk. She's a best-known selling author and transformative yoga teacher. Tamara is going to reveal how she escaped the high-pressure world of advertising and found peace and purpose through yoga and meditation. She'll share secrets behind her acclaimed books and offer practical tips for embracing mindfulness and spiritual connection. This is an episode you're not going to want to miss. But before we get started, I wanted to share with you, if you are eager to silence that inner critic that we all have around that self-talk and self-sabotage and transform your life, then I encourage you to join my free email challenge that's going to start in June. Plus, I'm offering a free 30-minute coaching call to kickstart your journey. And for women craving soulful healing, my membership program is just what you want. I'll include the links below in the show notes, but I'd love for you to join me in all three of these modalities in your journey. So let's jump right in. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Today's Balanced Leader. I'm excited to have Tamara Skyhawk with me. Tamara is not only a friend of mine, but she is a best-selling author and yoga teacher. And so I just wanted to share a little bit about her story and before we get into the interview. So Tamara Skyhawk is the best-selling author of a number of books, including Yoga Ninja Scripts, Minute Meditations for Everyday Calm, Affirmations for Queens, which talks about self-confidence, Hot Stone Restorative Yoga, which is one of my favorites, and Tamara knows that, and other inspirational books for adults and children. And she also has recently created some yoga decks, which I can't wait to get mine. They're in the mail, so I'm excited to share. But all with a vision to have more of a profound experience on and off the mat, if you will, and live a more peaceful life. And Tamara is also, like I said, a beloved yoga teacher and teacher training. Her work has infused, it's so infused with knowledge of over 30 years, I can't believe it, of yoga and meditation practice. And so welcome to our podcast, Tamara.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here with you.
Thank you. Thank you for taking time. And so let's start, which I love to start with all my guests, is to share a little bit about your personal journey. I'd love to hear, which I love, by the way, because I've heard little bits and pieces from it. Tamara knows my daughter has taken her yoga teacher training, and so we know the family, but would love to hear a little bit about how you got into yoga and meditation and kind of how your career and your life has really shaped as a result of it.
Yeah. So basically, it all started when I was working in advertising, and I had been working for, I don't know, maybe I'm going to say 4 years in the industry, and really fast-paced job in Toronto, and a lot of overtime hours. There were 60-hour weeks, and that was kind of regular, and just a lot of stress and pressure. And my physical health had declined, my mental health had declined, my energy level was nil, spiritual connection absolutely not even on my radar. And I just thought to myself, I have to do something. Like, this has to end. Like, I can't continue in this way. And so I just asked myself, what would make me really happy? Like, what would make me giddy, like super giddy, happy, excited? And the two things that came to mind were circus school or yoga teacher training. So
Love
yeah,
it.
and yoga teacher training won out, and I quit my job and I went to live at a yoga ashram for a month, and the rest is history. It really changed my life in, like, completely. So after that, soon after I got back to Toronto, I opened a small yoga studio on the Danforth. And then after some time, I worked in advertising as a copywriter, so creative job. And I was itching for that creative, more of that creative work. Not that yoga can't be creative, it certainly can be, but at the time I didn't really know that or hadn't discovered that yet. So, yeah, so I decided that I didn't close the studio. I continued to teach there, just I would teach less hours, and I went back to advertising. But when I went back, I was a different person because of the new perspectives that I had picked up during my yoga teacher training. And then I worked in advertising for a while, eventually went freelance, just kind of slowly weaning myself out of the industry. And then after freelancing for several years, I then went to do my advanced teacher training in India, and that led to several trips to India and me teaching teacher trainings in India and Canada as well. And yeah, then eventually moved out of Toronto, opened my own yoga studio during COVID,
Beautiful.
started writing.
I was just going to
Yeah.
say, so that copywriting, I can see why you are an author, but I love that, because we often talk about a couple of different things, like you talk about meditation, yoga, things like that. There's that North American style, and then there's that
Mm,
original,
mm,
whether it's India, Japan, whatever it is, right? Like I know
yeah.
for me, for Reiki, it's like trying to bring the original form of a modality into the world. And the fact that you went to India to learn, what would you say that's done for you personally, but also as far as, and I don't want to call them credentials, but your experience as you come and you now train students here? What that
Mm.
must have a different impact on people.
Yeah, I do get comments quite a bit about how people have felt that the training is life-changing, and it's just because I'm sharing exactly what it was about those trainings that changed my life. So, I'm just passing on the message of yoga, which has been passed on for thousands of years, and some of the practices that can help people. So, a lot of it was like shifting perspectives. Also, I would say having a little bit more spiritual connection. And probably one of the biggest things is just being more aware of what's going on in my life, what's going on in my body, what's going on in my mind, and having a framework to understand why things are manifesting in specific ways. Why am I getting sick? Why am I getting irritated? Why is all of this happening? And the yogic philosophies have given me a framework for understanding that.
Yes. And we talked a little bit prior to recording about, you not only teach when you're teaching yoga students, it's not just about yoga, so the physical movement,
No, yeah.
right?
No. I mean, the thing that was, it wasn't the physical aspect of yoga that was the most life-changing for me. To be honest, that kind of just, I was already quite physically capable before I went to yoga teacher training. So it wasn't the physical thing that changed for me at all. It was mental and spiritual. And that was through yogic philosophy, which is one of my, that's what's dearest to my heart when it comes to teaching yoga. Yeah. I mean, it's funny that you point that out because I don't even think about it. Like when I talk about yoga, people have a different thing in mind than what I'm actually expressing. But yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, for me, yoga is a spiritual practice of, the soul's journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason I bring that up is because you truly live that mind, body, spirit
Mm,
through the yoga practice, right? Through that yogic learnings. Like I said, it could be food, it could be mindset, it's spirituality.
yeah.
Movement is just an element of how we care for our bodies. So I love that it encompasses all of it because often people will go to yoga classes and it's merely, not that it's bad, but it's merely the movement piece.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, everything has its place, you're right. And there's benefit to all of it, and which is great. There's so many different styles of yoga because there's so many different types of people. And
right.
we all need something slightly different. But for me, it was the philosophy that changed
I
my life.
love
Yeah.
that. So, how do you extend that experience of yoga beyond the mat? So, you think about mindfulness practices or mindful eating. Can you give our listeners example of things that maybe they could do around having that thought process? Like, how do you do that? Because I know they always love to hear how individuals live their lives.
For me, when I approach my yoga practice, I'm thinking about restoring myself as a soul within a body.
Mm.
And I think that the body really is not my focus, which is one of the big things that was paradigm shifting for me, was that I started to see myself as a soul with a body rather than a body with a soul. So the identity is not attached to the body anymore. My identity is attached to the soul that's within the body. So there's less stress about the physical things that are happening within the body. And in terms of yogic diet, the yogic approach to things is just to keep things very simple, to not overthink anything. I mean, we live in a culture where we overthink everything, and we're encouraged to overthink everything by all of the advertisers and businesses. But really, yogic diet is one of moderation. It's one of simplicity. It's just, you eat to survive, and your food shouldn't cause any excitement for you either way. You don't need to restrict yourself. You don't need to get fancy about it. It's just really about keeping things simple. So just listening to your body, whatever your body needs and whenever your body needs, then you feed yourself.
Yeah, you and I have talked about that many years ago, and I that has always sat with me. It's a
Mm.
very opposite thought process, at least in North America.
Yeah, we're really physically focused. Yeah.
Yes, yes. And I love looking at it from a soul perspective because that's where your mind, body, spirit can come into play, and that this is a vessel for our
Yeah.
soul to learn to travel to
Yeah.
experience, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I
The
love
other
that.
thing I think that's really important to understand is that from a yoga perspective, everything manifests itself from the inside out. So in yoga, we have this theory that every individual has three bodies. So we have the physical body, which we're all very aware of. We have an energetic body, which holds all of our sensations and feelings. And then we have a causal body, which is a storehouse of all of our past impressions. And so the idea is that part of ourselves, which is composed of all of the impressions that we've had, that is the blueprint for what manifests as your energetic body and your physical body. So it all starts from that level of what impressions you have. So, for example, if I have the impression in my storehouse of impressions that says you're not good enough, that's going to affect what's happening with my energetic body and what's happening with my physical body. And it's going to affect my destiny as well, because I'm going to behave according to that blueprint that I'm not good enough. I'm going to, maybe not create some boundaries for myself. I'm going to maybe not give myself the things that I truly deserve. I may choose to be in the company of people that are not appreciating me, And so I think it's really important that when you are trying to create some balance for yourself and a more happy life, that you understand that everything starts at the level of the thoughts, the level of the impressions. So if you want to go and change anything that's different about your life, you have to change the way you're thinking about things, because it all starts at that level.
Yeah, and it took me a long time, I'll admit, and I'm still working on it.
Mhm.
How you call it that? I have learned through somatic and shamanic healing around, if you're thinking about it all the time, of course it's going to manifest, if you will, right?
Mhm.
So if you focus on, for me, like an illness, if you focus on, to your point, others not being good enough, things like that, it really does start to manifest in that you truly believe it. And so that's how you live your life. And so breaking through those to understand why you have that mindset and how to rewire the brain to think that I am worthy, that I am good enough, that I am deserving,
Mhm.
that I do have self love for myself, that I am confident in sharing my voice, I think are key, to your point, as part of all of that. So that's where you start, right?
Yeah, you can see that if you kind of like look at my work as a whole, that's where my passion for yoga nidra comes from, because we can drop those positive impressions into the subconscious mind while we're in those deeply relaxed states. That's why the hot stone restorative yoga, because I'm helping people to luxuriate in the sensations of comfort and pleasure. And that's why, affirmations for queens and good night, I love you, because I want people to have those positive mental impressions, because that's what changes everything. Yeah.
So let's think about, maybe you can share before we shift a little bit. When you think about you as a yoga teacher and teacher trainer, you must have some amazing stories of some of the students that you have shared that with. But what would you say is probably the most rewarding for you about sharing this practice with others? Because, in part of that spirituality, it's about receiving but also giving, right? So there's some beauty in that, and I'll pause there.
Yeah. Oh, for me, definitely the thing that keeps me going and why it's I continue to be so passionate about what I do with the yoga teaching and teacher training is that I see people like fundamentally shift. Like
Yeah.
I see their lives change for the better. I see them happier. I see them more confident. I actually see them physically start to glow as well, which is interesting. You can sense the energetic shift in people when things change or they have these aha moments. Yeah. But just actually this past week, I had one of our teacher training students. She told me that she was practicing teaching her yoga class, and she just broke down crying because she was so overwhelmed that she felt like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm actually doing this, because as long as she could remember, she had felt weak. And now she felt like oh my gosh, like I mean, I'm in my 50s and I'm just beginning and I'm not weak. I'm strong and I can do things I never imagined possible. And, that's just one example. As you say, there's a million stories. That's just what happened this week. But it's that, like I've seen people come to the course, and the teacher training especially it's the main life changer. I've seen people come through the program where they had social anxiety so badly that, it was difficult for them to even physically come into the room where we were doing the training. And then after the training, that same individual was out and traveling the world, which is unbelievable. And again, it's just all about these mental shifts, these aha moments that we have, and it just changes our lives. I know you also, you're doing that with the coaching, right? Helping people to have those aha moments that just make those huge game-changing shifts. Yeah.
Well, and I believe, when we live in our authentic energy, because we talked
Yep.
a little bit about that perfectionism, right? And so
Mm,
if you watch TV, if you're on social media, who isn't, it's all about what life looks like.
mm-hmm.
But that's not really what life looks like. And, some actresses have come out around, as we know, not wearing makeup, things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's around that authentic energy, being who we are. We all, and I often talk about, we have gifts that it's just such a shame when we hide those gifts, when we feel that society doesn't want to hear it. They don't want it,
Yes.
right? But you will find the people that truly resonate with that. And so my tagline lately too has been, it's never too late, because I'm in the back half of my life, probably more than
Yeah.
back 3/4 of my life.
Yeah.
And just, it's never too late to shift, to find
Absolutely.
that authentic energy, to be open to experiences like we talked about, to be open to new things and finding new ways to do it, because it's incredible when you can sit quietly, which is going to be one of my questions, but you can sit quietly and turn off the mind, because we do overthink, and really sit and intuitively listen to whether it feels right or not, because your body will always tell you whether it's the right direction for you or not. And I
Yeah.
think there's more and more people looking for that.
Mm,
And so one of my questions is going to be, you think about somebody who maybe just, hey, this all sounds great. I wouldn't have a clue of where to start, whether
mm,
it's yoga, meditation. And I've had people say to me, well, I can't meditate. I can't stop my mind. I
yeah.
can't quiet it down. I
Mhm.
mean, I have an opinion on that, but I would love to hear kind of your thoughts if somebody came up to you and said, Tamara, like, I love you. I love what you're saying. I want to be a part of that, but how do I even start?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Yeah. So in terms of slowing down the mind, I think I'm actually teaching a meditation course right now, and we begin with guided meditations because for those people that can't, first of all, the mind never stops. We can just only give it a point of focus. The mind's nature is that it's going to jump out and attach itself to whatever it can. That's just how it is. But we can try to tame it and try to focus it or try to ignore it. There are different ways that we can be in control. But yeah, so for people that find it like they just have such a busy mind and they can't do a silent meditation, that's totally not surprising in terms of where meditation sits in a traditional yogic practice. It's like is the seventh out of eight limbs. It's the seventh rung up the ladder. So there are so many other things that need to come before that. So don't be surprised if you can't sit and think you can clear your mind, or that you can, meditate on one thing, or that you can even focus. I mean, even concentration is the sixth step. So
Right.
even even concentrating on a guided meditation and not having the mind wander off, that's high up the ladder, right? So For sure, some of those other yogic practices are helpful. So just yoga is all, the whole system is built on dealing with learning how to control what's most obvious first, what's most easy and obvious first, and then you start dealing with the more subtle aspects of yourself as you go along. So you start with the mental framework of how you're going to live. And this is similar to like the 10 Commandments or something, where we want to maintain truthfulness and non-stealing and non-greed and these types of things. So just giving us a basics of like ethics and morals. And then we learn to control the body. After we control the body, we can learn to control the breath and the energy. After we learn to control that, we can start trying to rein in the senses. After we learn that, then we can start trying to concentrate. So like, and then meditation comes after that. So I would say for beginners, just even getting started with any yoga classes will be helpful. You'll be amazed at how, even though you can't, you feel like you can't relax, just go to a class where you're busier. There are lots of different yoga classes. There are some that are constantly moving. So maybe those are the ones that you start with. And then you just have like 10 minutes of relaxation at the end, which isn't it's just a baby step, right?
Right.
Always go in baby steps, because if you try to overdo it, and I've seen so many yoga students go that way, if they go to the extremes, inevitably they fall off of the wagon and the whole thing kind of collapses on itself. So, you know, always start with the baby steps. So the first thing is like, go do something that allows you to get some time for yourself, reconnect with your body. That's the first thing. And it doesn't have to even be yoga. I mean, yoga is built for that, but it could be other things as well. It could be riding a horse. It could be, who knows? I don't know,
Could
playing
be
with a
walking
dog. It
in nature, could
could be
be
walking in
journaling.
nature. Could
Yeah.
be anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Just get in touch with your body. Do activities which are going to start to settle your nervous system, because your brain's not going to be working properly until your nervous system is settled anyway. So everything has to start with settling your nervous system. That includes like if you have any stress eating or things like that, you know, or you're dealing with physical problems because you've been doing the stress eating, and mental problems because of that, and it's all just kind of connected. But really, it all comes down to your nervous system. You have to start settling your nervous system by doing calming activities. Breathing, guided meditation is good. So even if you start with like, an app that has like 3-minute
Mhm.
meditations, take those baby steps. Don't think that you need to take the big step. Go through the steps. It's okay to go through the steps.
Yeah, I love that. And that's why on my website I've offered like 3 free meditations for people.
Yeah.
One's really short, it's more breath work meditation.
Mm-hmm.
One is longer because it walks you through your chakras a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all, to your point, it's all just giving it a try. And just because it doesn't work today doesn't mean it won't work next month type thing, right? I think breath, people, even I at one point was like, well, breath work, like everybody breathes. But there is so much around breath work that I've taken people through, even through my Soulful Healing membership. We do breath work just to be able to focus, to calm, to reset the mind,
Yeah.
there's
Yep.
so many, to your point, so many things you can do in such a short period of time. Setting intention in the morning, affirmations, like there's,
All those little rituals. And to be honest, I never recommend to people to do the things that somebody else has said they should do, or that somebody else has said, well, this has worked for me, and so you assume, well, I better try it even though I'm not really keen on it. Don't bother. Don't even waste your time. Go with what you like.
love
Because
that.
if you like it, you'll continue with it. If you don't like it, you will not continue with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Never thought Reiki would be something. Now I'm a Reiki master, but
Yeah.
just understanding the energy and to your point, I mean, that's still not, the bottom rung, the first step, but when you work through energy, you work through feelings, It's incredible when you're, even when I'm doing Reiki on a client, I have those that fall asleep on the table and I have those that burst out into tears. There's so many different reactions, and it's such a great way to try and start to heal through those experiences. But to your point,
Mm.
there's some simple little things people can do on their own where they don't have to spend a ton
Yeah.
of money or time on something.
Yeah. Start with the path of least resistance. Start with what lights you up.
Yeah, love it. I'm going to shift a little bit. So,
Yep.
I want to talk a little bit about, because you're an author as well. What inspired
Yes.
you to start writing books on, and I mean, have written on yoga, on meditation, on
Yeah.
affirmations, on self-confidence. You've got a children's book. Maybe you can share a little bit about what inspired you, and feel free to share a little bit about it. I kind of knew what Yoga Nidra Scripts was, but I'll be honest, I wasn't sure because I know that one's one of your best sellers. So I
Yeah.
quickly went on to go check it out and see what it's about. And I just loved how, this was just a quick way for people to focus on a specific practice. So maybe you can share a little bit about being an author and what you've done.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, great. So, like many good projects that have come out in the last few years, this one was, it's began because we were in our lockdown and I needed to be able to connect with people and have a creative outlet. And I wasn't able to do that through our yoga studio, which we had to shut down. So I've always wanted to write a book. And I took a course that showed me how to do it. And I just sat down and did it. And what I chose to write was to help as a resource for the yoga teachers that I have. So the first book was the Yoga Nidra Scripts, and that was for myself because I was also sharing Yoga Nidra and I needed more scripts. And I know that words are not everybody's forte, and that I'm sure that some of my teachers would appreciate having scripts already written and they just have to read them, right? Rather than to have to come up with stuff on the fly. And sometimes you say things on the fly, and when you're leading someone through a meditation, you can't edit it. So, so scripts, I really enjoy having scripts. I do go off script when I read my yoga nidra scripts, as I feel. It's kind of a bit of a dance, but it gives you a good framework. And yeah, and it just became really popular. There were all sorts of other people like me who also wanted scripts for their yoga nidra practices. And at that time, especially, I mean, people needed it. People
Yeah.
needed to calm down. We were all stressed out by not knowing what was going to happen
Yeah.
and being in fear and oh my gosh. And so a chance to kind of relax, reconnect, but also to be, lovingly guided through it what is just, I mean, that's just what the doctor ordered. And I still think like we're still needing it deeply. But yeah, like, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. Like we needed it at that time for sure. And yeah, so that's what started it. And the fact that that was so popular, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to do another one. I'll do a second Yoga Nidra Scripts book, and because I also needed more scripts, 'cause I was leading these Yoga Nidra practices all the time, and I needed more scripts, and so I wrote another one, and then that led to a children's book idea that I'd had based on a conversation I had with my son to help build his self-esteem. And yeah, I mean, it just kind of went from there. I just kind of followed what inspiration came to me.
I love that. I love because it's all like every one of them has to do with the mind, body, spirit. And in fact, even
Yeah.
your children's book, when I was checking it out, I was looking at the Mother's Nature's Whisper.
Mm,
Just what a great little book for kids that, again, is just an inspiration on connecting. And it's not only connecting with nature, but when you connect with nature, you connect with self.
yeah.
And I think that is so important in this day and age where they go to school, they've got homework, maybe they play some activity, some form of a sport or do something, and we forget sometimes the simplicity of just being a child and being outside and lying in the
Mhm.
grass and looking at the clouds and things like that. So I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And of course, I always have the same question for my guests around, if you had one thing that you wanted to share to the listeners about your journey, whether it's a valuable lesson, a transformative experience, or something that profoundly impacted your life, what would you say that is for you?
Yeah, it's something that I've just picked up recently. Another one of those little nuggets of wisdom. I've picked it up recently, but it was one of those moments where you go, that's it. That's exactly describing what has been my journey. Like that's describing everything that's important. And it was follow the fun. And I have learned this the hard way over the years, trying to force fit myself into what other people wanted, trying to force fit my business offerings into what I thought people wanted, trying to, it just never works. It never works. What works is you follow the fun. You follow your inspiration. Same as when I was talking about the meditation and taking those baby steps, follow what's fun. Don't try to force things because it doesn't work when we force things. When we force, things push back. So yeah, it's just really just follow the fun and life becomes simpler. It moves better. You're happier. And you don't go in the wrong direction when you follow the fun, when you follow what lights you up.
I love that. And you talked about, what was the word you used? Do you remember what the word was before? About being giddy, right? What makes you giddy?
Yeah.
What brings
Yeah, what
you
makes you
that
giddy?
joy?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
and I think it's, at least at my stage of life, being through COVID, I'd lost my dad. It was seeing his legacy and how profound it was and the impact he left. It was a great opportunity for me to reflect and see where I was spending my energy and was it true to what I wanted? Because at the end of the day, you don't want to have any regrets, right? And
Yeah.
you never know when your time is on this planet, on this earth, is finished. And
Mhm.
so I love that around bringing yourself joy and what makes you happy, what brings you joy,
Mhm.
is beautiful. Thank you. Do you have anything else you want to share with our listeners, Tamara?
No, I think that, yeah, it's been lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Please, listeners, check out Tamara's, her website, her books. You can find her books all over the place. And if you want those cards that we were talking about, and I promise I'll share them once I get them, you can definitely go on her website and purchase them there. So thank you for your time again. I truly appreciate it and wish you a beautiful day.
You too. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
That's all for this episode of today's Balanced Leader. I hope you've enjoyed the discussion on wellness and leadership and that you took away some valuable insights and strategies to help you become a better leader in your own life. Please leave a rating and review. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss the next one as we continue our exploration of what it means to live life as today's leader. In the meantime, take care of yourself and remember that true leadership starts with taking care of your own well-being. One deep breath in and one deep breath out. Keep striving for excellence and inspiring others to do the same. And finally, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Today's Balanced Leader.